So the Destroyer just came out in Lost Ark, and I'm sure the burning question on a lot of your minds is, well, when's my favorite class coming out? Well, don't worry, because your dad's here to help you out. So once we knew that the Destroyer class was coming, community managers at Amazon basically let us know that the current release order of the classes is mostly due to player demands and that giant Korean balance patch that was happening at the time. That's actually why they pulled the Summoner out of our version of the game last minute, because she was actually set to get a bit of a mini rework in the Korean version, and they didn't want to release her out in the West and then immediately rework her. They've since gone on record to say that every class coming after this, we should expect to be released in the same order that they came out in Korea. The tricky part is that a lot of the classes that we have in the Western version of the game were not available in the Korean launch of the game, so our timeline's a little mixed up. For example, the entire Assassin subclass. Yeah, Lost Ark launched with no Assassin classes, which is pretty crazy to think about. Now, as for the classes that we have in our version that the Koreans didn't have in their launch of the game, well, obviously the Shadowhunter and the Deathblade didn't exist. So about a year after launch, they got the Destroyer, and then a couple months after that, they got the Sharpshooter and the Soul Fist. And yes, these classes do exist, even if you've never seen them. My Soul Fists out there, rise up. These classes were then followed up by the release of the Glavier, and then a whole 3 years after the launch of the game, the Korean version got the Assassin subclass with the dual release of both the Shadowhunter and the Deathblade at the same time. At the end of that year, they got the Paladin class, and then 3 years later came the Gunslinger, the Striker, and the Sorceress. So that's a lot of classes spread out over a long time that we now have in our version of the game right now. So what classes are still going to be coming to us in the West? Well, going by release order in the Korean servers, that would start us out with 2 new mages, with the Arcanist and the Summoner, both of these releasing in the same update. The Summoner was pulled from our version last minute for that miniature rework, and the Arcanist was originally meant to be our first new class we got in our version. That was until people begged for the Glavier to be brought over instead, which they did. So this tracks as the next 2 classes that we're probably going to be getting. The next fresh face will be a new Gunner character with the Scouter, who is a big favorite of mine. His class info and models are both in the game's files already, so it seems like he's going to be coming sooner rather than later. Probably right after those 2 prior classes. Now, after his release will come my favorite assassin character, the Reaper. She's the closest to an actual assassin type character, so I know a lot of people in the West are gonna love her when she comes out. And finally, that leaves us with one last class that is in its own entirely new category of specialists, the Artist. She is an incredibly fun support character that seems to make all of the West seethe with rage, so I'm very excited for her to come out. Aside from that, there's one more class that's slated to be released in Korea that we don't really have any info on right now, that's called the Aeromancer, who's another specialist. From what we know, she's going to be a bit more damage oriented and based around weather magic. One final thing to bring up is that alternate genders for these existing classes are always being released alongside these big new class releases. And the West seems to prioritize getting out these alternate genders as soon as possible. The next gender swap coming to Korea is the female Berserker class, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Amazon bring that over pretty quickly after its release. So that leaves 6 new classes and 1 new gender swap in the Korean versions that are coming over to the West. Let me know what you guys are most excited for. Personally, I'm most excited for the Reaper and the new Specialist classes, and I am praying each and every day that the new female Berserker has abs. That's pretty much everything. Thank you for sticking around to the end. Check out my friends over at GamerSupps if you want to help me out. They've been amazing to work with. Their stuff tastes great. Peach tea is my favorite flavor, and it's like a healthy Kool-Aid that keeps you focused and packs you up with vitamins. Use my promo code LOW for 10% off your order, and check out their free samples if you want to give them a try. As always, you can join my community Discord if you want to come hang out with me. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.